Hello, Starshine. My name is Liz, and this is my channel, Simsational Stories. If you have not seen my videos before, and you enjoy this one, please like and subscribe, and maybe check out my other social media as well. I'm on both Facebook and Twitter. All relevant links are in the description below, and of course, if you're a Sims player and you'd like to download any of my characters, just search the hashtag Simsational Stories on the Sims 4 gallery. All original content is created by This Is Not Eric. Finally, before I begin my Simsational story, I'd like to issue this blanket content and trigger warning. The following story is just Sims, hey. I'm not going to apologise for treating them terribly, if that's what I've done. But I do want to assure you now that although I mean absolutely no harm, I completely understand if you feel unable to consume my content. Many loves, and we will catch each other on the internet elsewhere. Okay, so now we've gotten that over with. Let's go. Today's story is from Kellyanne Kalthis & Co., and we're at chapter 14. If you have not seen previous chapters and would like to catch up, there are playlists available on my channel so you can hear the entire story in chronological order. The rest of us are going to move on from where we left off last time though. So without further ado. Kellyanne Kalthis' new boyfriend, Kyle Harris, had seemed like the perfect man. They had met at the club, gone home together, and been together ever since. She had thought that she had finally met her prince, but now she was walking on eggshells in his home because, for the first time in her life, Kellyanne was a victim of domestic violence. Kellyanne had had a vibrant dating history, and she had the 5 children to prove it. All of them, from eldest daughter Kelsey to the current baby of the family, Kaylee, had different fathers who had abandoned them and Kellyanne completely. They all lived in an apartment Kaylee's father, Gino Grubb, had kindly provided for them in lieu of involvement in his daughter's life. Weeks ago, Kellyanne had left her children behind to move in with Kyle. Maybe she could go back. Teenager Kelsey Kalthis was her mother's first accidental child. She had unfortunately borne the brunt of her mother's reluctant and neglectful parenting her whole life. Now, she was basically the parent herself. Dark-haired and quiet Kevin was her little helper, while bold and blonde little Kevin did his very best to help too. The next youngest, Carissa, already tended to take after Kevin in temperament, whereas current baby of the family, toddling Kaylee, was quite a handful already. Kellyanne had left her 5 children behind to move in with Kyle over a month ago, and she hadn't even called once to check in on them. Kaylee was only 2 years old. Now Kellyanne was coming back, trying to beg forgiveness. Kelsey was having none of it. They had all been doing far better without their mother than they had ever before with her. And besides that, Kelsey was sleeping in the master bedroom now anyway. They had no need, want, or room for Kellyanne in their lives anymore. After Kelsey had basically thrown her out of her own home, Kellyanne had felt herself almost forced then to go back to Kyle and his luxurious apartment across town. She was uncomfortable with the prospect and, of course, a little scared too, but where else could she go? Kyle tried to reassure her that he had made a mistake and it would never happen again, but wasn't that what they all said? Not for the first time in her life, Kellyanne comforted herself with food. She had once been a slim and trim young socialite, but the years of babies had left her with an unhealthy habit of eating her emotions away. Grilled cheese sandwiches were her all-time favorite food, something she could talk about for hours. Kellyanne also comforted herself through drinking, a hobby she shared with Kyle. It was how they had met, and even now, after everything they had gone through. It was still something they did together. Kellyanne had come back to him, but she was still feeling so conflicted about their relationship. Kyle had been on his best behaviour since the incident, and he was truly sorry for what had happened. He had been so drunk, and Kellyanne had honestly provoked him. She should have known better, but then so should he. There was no excuse for what he had done, and he knew it. It took a few weeks, but finally Kellyanne decided to give Kyle another true and proper chance. Except for that one fight, he had been so good to her, and he provided for her like no other man had before in her life. All he asked in return was that she kept their spacious apartment, as well as herself, tidy and presentable, and, of course, that there was some sort of dinner available when he came home from work hungry. It was your typical traditional setup, and although Kellyanne had never been much of a domestic goddess before, she did her best. Meanwhile, back in their own rather small and dingy apartment, teenager Kelsey was also doing her best to raise Kellyanne's children practically by herself. She still went to school, as well as working a part-time job, but it wouldn't have been possible if the family didn't work together. The Kalthis kids shared a strong bond, and all five pulled together to make it work without their mother. It got easier as they got older. Eldest son Kevin and his younger brother Keith were quite close in age, and Kelsey now felt confident in leaving them to look after Carissa and Kaylee while she worked longer and later shifts. 4-year-old Carissa practically took care of the job herself anyway, always fetching baby Kaylee her snacks and playing with her. It was definitely a team effort. Their first Christmas together alone without their mother was one Kelsey would always remember. She'd saved for weeks to be able to afford a small pile of presents, one for everyone, and she'd watched about 17 how-to cooking streams to try to figure out how to cook a proper fish dinner for them all. It went off without a hitch. Everyone wore their best clothes, sat down together at the same time, and nobody fought over anything. Kelsey's boyfriend Roman Peterson even came over, and together they all ate a proper sit-down Christmas dinner like a real family before opening their presents. It was also Kellyanne and Kyle's first Christmas together. They had been together for just over 2 months now, and despite some difficult moments, their relationship was flourishing. Kyle had never planned to fall in love with anyone, but with her voluptuous, vapid beauty, he hadn't been able to resist Kellyanne. And boy, did Kellyanne have a big present for Kyle this year. She was pregnant. He couldn't believe it. This was fantastic, amazing, wonderful news. He was going to be a daddy. Kyle was ecstatic, and for a moment, Kellyanne allowed herself to be too. Maybe this time it would be different. The dad would stick around, and she really could have her happily ever after. And that brings us to the end of chapter 14 of Kellyanne, Kalthis and Co. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe so you can tune in soon to hear the next chapter. And hey, maybe think about sharing my channel with a friend. Or don't. It's your life. Anyway, bye!